Do you enjoy writing as a hobby? And wouldn't it be nice if you could make some extra cash doing something that you actually enjoy? Well, if you're curious, just keep on watching and I'll show you how I do it. There are some real opportunities out there writing for newspapers, magazines, entering short story contests, or even self-publishing a book. I've always enjoyed writing, but I actually wrote my first book when my then husband and I rescued an abandoned baby bird, and we raised it alongside of our 3 cats. When friends would come over, they couldn't believe how smart the bird was and how well it got along with the cats, and they'd say, "Wow, you should write a book about that." And that's exactly what I did. This led to my story called Fritz, the Uncommon Grackle. And if you're wondering, a grackle is a very intelligent type of blackbird. Even though I was pretty busy at work, I managed to write about a chapter every week. I spent about another month editing the book. And when that was done, I got started on designing the book cover. It wasn't difficult, but it did take some trial and error. Now get ready. This is the first book cover I ever created. And as you can see, it's pretty amateurish looking, but then after some experimentation, this is what I ended up with. When you're designing a book cover, I think experimentation is the key. Of course, that was back in 2007, and there are many more tools available to help you today. Have you ever heard of AI?
What? I've heard of this.
So the second book I wrote was called Help, I'm Just a Kitty. It's a book I wrote about keeping your cat safe and happy. Once again, this was my first cover, and this is my current cover. Books are not the only thing.
We may be experiencing some technical difficulties.
Well, hello everyone, I'm back. I found these newspaper clippings in a box of memorabilia. They were printed after I wrote to the editors of 2 small-town newspapers where I used to live, telling them about the books I wrote and self-published. They interviewed me over the phone and asked to have a photo of me holding the book, and just like that, once again, free advertising. If you saw my video I did about making money painting as a hobby, you might recall that I did the exact same thing to promote my paintings, like this one. Also for free. Seems that newspapers love human interest stories, especially when it's about a local resident who did something interesting. So I thought, if that works for small town newspapers, why not try the biggest selling newspaper in the country? I submitted an essay about my move from the suburbs to the city, and the Toronto Star published it. On top of that, I became a paid contributor and ended up writing several columns. They even sent a staff photographer every time, so I have lots of pictures. So I owe much of this to my editor, Ellen Moorhouse, who was ever so encouraging and helpful during the 4 years that I ended up writing for the Star. Well, my success with the Star encouraged me to submit a story to Metro, the commuter daily, and that also led to becoming a paid contributor. Here's the headlines from some of my columns they published. And as you can see, there are a wide variety of topics you can write about. In this one, I wrote about the Mendelssohn Choir after attending one of their rehearsals and interviewing some of the choir members. There's never a shortage of stuff to write about. Well, unfortunately, that came to an end when I moved to Montreal.
That's too bad.
All of that happened before newspapers moved online, and people were still reading physical copies of the newspaper. So that's why I cut out all the clippings of my articles and I keep them in this book, which I also store in my box of memorabilia. As far as books go, I'm not a creative writer. Turns out I'm not particularly good at writing fiction. I did put those skills to the test though by taking a creative writing workshop called Come As You Are. At the end of it, the course facilitator, Catherine Payne, printed each student's story and bound them together in this book. At the end of the workshop, we each had to read our, let's just say, stimulating stories out loud to the rest of the class. And as I read my story titled The House of Fantasies, I would hear several people in the room chuckling because, as it turned out, my story was actually more humorous than erotic. Another thing I used to do was submit ideas to the Toronto Stars. They had this reader exchange that had a $25 prize for the best tip. Or I'd send pieces to the opinions column or letters to the editor at the Montreal Gazette and the Montreal Mirror. I entered short story writing contests too. In other words, I tried a little bit of everything. So here is a tip I submitted. If you wear contact lenses and you don't have eye drops handy, or you don't like putting eye drops in your eyes, just think of something sad that will cause your eyes to tear up for a few seconds, but don't overdo it and end up sobbing. Now, do you think I won the prize that week? Well, unfortunately I didn't, but they did at least print my article. There it is. And here's another one where I did actually win the prize. $25 prize goes to Lili White of Mississauga, who writes, "Keep daily newspapers in order easily by storing them in a wine rack. Designate a slot for each day of the week and replace the papers with new issues each day. No more newspaper piles all over the house. Or waste the time searching for a particular issue." You actually never know. You just have to keep trying. The writing will always be just a hobby for me. I wouldn't like the pressure of tight deadlines that authors and professional journalists deal with. Honestly, I would not enjoy it at all. But as a hobby, it's been fun and rewarding creatively and financially. If you'd like to see more hobbies that cost very little or nothing and can bring in some extra cash, then check out my hobbies playlist. I hope you were able to learn something. If you have any thoughts or questions on any of that, just put them down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.